The applause was deafening as my sister walked into her dream wedding. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above hundreds of guests. The flowers alone cost more than my first car. My parents couldn't stop smiling. They kept telling everyone how proud they were to give their daughter the perfect day. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew that 6 weeks earlier, I had discovered where the wedding money came from. It was my treatment fund. The savings account I had spent years building to pay for a medical procedure I desperately needed. When I confronted my family, they made a choice. And it wasn't me. The applause was deafening as my sister walked into her dream wedding. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above hundreds of guests. The flowers alone cost more than my first car. My parents couldn't stop smiling. They kept telling everyone how proud they were to give their daughter the perfect day. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew that 6 weeks earlier, I had discovered where the wedding money came from. It was my treatment fund. The savings account I had spent years building to pay for a medical procedure I desperately needed. When I confronted my family, they made a choice. And it wasn't me. My name is Emma, and I was 28 years old when I learned exactly how much I meant to my family. For most of my life, I had been the responsible daughter. I worked hard, paid my own bills, helped my parents whenever they needed it. When my younger sister Lily wanted something, she asked. When I wanted something, I saved for it. That difference defined our entire childhood. 3 years before the wedding, I was diagnosed with a medical condition that required a specialized procedure. It wasn't immediately life-threatening, but delaying treatment could create serious complications. Insurance covered part of the cost. Unfortunately, not enough. The remaining amount was more money than I had ever spent on anything. So I started saving. Every bonus, every overtime payment, every extra dollar. I gave up vacations, stopped eating out, sold things I didn't need. Slowly, the account grew. My parents knew about it. In fact, they often told relatives how proud they were of my discipline. At least they did before Lily got engaged. The engagement changed everything. Almost overnight, my parents became obsessed with creating the perfect wedding. The venue became more expensive. The guest list became larger. The decorations became more extravagant. Every month the budget increased. Every month my parents became more stressed. Then the requests started. At first they were small. Maybe you could help with the flowers. Then it became, family should support family. Eventually my mother stopped hinting. Why are you sitting on all that money while your sister is struggling with wedding expenses? I couldn't believe she was serious. Because it's my treatment fund. Her expression hardened. You can always do the procedure later. That sentence stayed with me, because she genuinely believed it. To her, my health was flexible. The wedding wasn't. I refused to contribute. That should have ended the conversation. Instead, things became worse. My parents treated my decision like a personal betrayal. Family dinners became uncomfortable. Phone calls became arguments. Lily never directly demanded money, but she never defended me either. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was preparing paperwork for my procedure when I checked my account balance. I froze. The money was gone. Almost all of it. At first, I thought there had been a banking error. Then I called the bank. Within minutes, I learned the truth. Years earlier, my father had remained an authorized signer on the account. I had forgotten to remove him. The withdrawals were legal, but they weren't right. I drove straight to my parents' house. My mother was reviewing wedding decorations. My father was discussing catering options. Lily was sitting beside them. The moment they saw my face, they knew. "Where's my money?" I asked. Nobody answered. I asked again. Finally, my father sighed. The wedding costs got out of control. My heart dropped. My mother folded her arms. "We were going to tell you." Lily looked down at the floor. Not one of them denied it. Not one of them apologized. Then my mother said the sentence that permanently changed our relationship. "Your sister only gets married once." I stared at her. "And I only get one body." Silence filled the room. My father looked away. Lily said nothing. That hurt the most. I left without another word. Over the next few days, I ignored dozens of calls. Then something happened that made everything even worse. A relative called me. "Why are you refusing to help your sister?" I was confused. Then another relative called. And another. Soon I discovered the truth. My parents had told everyone that I was selfish, that I had plenty of money, that I refused to support the family, that I cared more about myself than my sister. Nobody knew about the treatment fund. Nobody knew what had actually happened. And on the day of the wedding, I realized just how far my parents were willing to go. I almost didn't attend the wedding, but in the end I went. Not because I wanted to celebrate, because I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes. The ballroom looked like something from a movie. Luxury flowers covered every table. A live orchestra played near the stage. Guests walked around admiring the decorations. My treatment fund was everywhere, hanging from the ceiling, covering the walls, sitting on every table. I quietly took a seat near the back. Several relatives ignored me. Others gave me disappointed looks. The story my parents had spread was working. Then the speeches began. My father stood first. He thanked everyone for attending. Then he praised Lily. Then he praised himself. Then, to my shock, he mentioned me. Families survive because everyone contributes, he said. Several guests turned toward me. The implication was obvious. I felt my face burn, but I stayed silent. For a moment, I considered standing up and exposing everything. Then I stopped myself. Nothing good would come from creating a scene. So I simply stood and left. That was the last family event I attended for almost 2 years. The following months were difficult. I hired an attorney. The legal process took time. But eventually, evidence showed exactly where the money had gone. The pressure became too much. My parents agreed to a settlement. Most of the funds were returned, not because they felt guilty, because they didn't want the truth becoming public. The returned money allowed me to move forward with treatment. Recovery wasn't easy. There were setbacks,
Fear, pain.
long months of uncertainty. But eventually my health improved. And with it, so did my life. I focused on work, accepted opportunities, took risks. Over time, I built a successful career in healthcare operations. 5 promotions later, I became regional director for a rapidly growing healthcare company. For the first time in years, life felt peaceful. Then one afternoon, my assistant walked into my office. "We have a candidate for tomorrow's final interview." She handed me a resume. I looked down and froze. Lily, my sister. For several seconds, I simply stared. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 2 years. According to the resume, her husband had left. Their business had failed. Debt had piled up. She was desperate for a fresh start. The next morning, she walked into the interview room. The moment she saw me, she stopped. The color drained from her face. Neither of us spoke. The other interviewers had no idea why. We completed the interview professionally,
Fairly.
objectively, and honestly, she performed well. After the meeting ended, she asked if we could talk privately. I agreed. For nearly an hour, we sat in silence before the conversation finally began. Then Lily started crying. Not the dramatic kind, the exhausted kind. She admitted everything. She admitted knowing where the money came from. She admitted staying quiet because she didn't want to ruin the wedding. She admitted choosing comfort over doing the right thing. "I told myself I'd make it up to you later," she whispered. But later never came. For the first time, I saw genuine regret. Not excuses. Not blame. Responsibility. A week later, the hiring committee made its decision. Lily got the job. Not because she was my sister. Because she earned it. Months later, she became one of the strongest employees in the division. Slowly, we rebuilt a relationship. Not the old relationship. A new one. An honest one. As for my parents, the truth eventually reached the family. Relatives learned about the treatment fund. They learned about the lies. They learned what really paid for that wedding. The reaction was immediate. The same people who had judged me suddenly understood. For the first time, my parents faced consequences they couldn't avoid. One evening, my mother called. Her voice sounded older, smaller. "We made a terrible mistake." I believed her. But some mistakes leave permanent scars. I forgave them. Not because they deserved it, because I deserved peace. Today, I still remember that wedding. The chandeliers, the flowers, the applause. For years, I thought it was the day my family chose my sister over me. Now I see it differently. It was the day they revealed who they really were. And it was the day I finally learned my own worth.